Welcome to the Lean Lounge, a podcast brought to you by Lean Revisions. Please welcome your host, Jeff Gray.
Hello, everyone. Jeff Gray here from the Lean Lounge. Are you ready to elevate your business operations? Well, let me introduce you to our new sponsor, Smarty.com. They are industry leaders in data and address verification. What that means is organizations like Uber, Capital One, Microsoft, NASA, and even Netflix use Smarty.com to verify data, improve their customer experience, and streamline logistics. They trust Smarty's powerful tools to help ensure real-time data accuracy every time. With seamless integration and real-time processing, you can say goodbye to messy data and hello to smarter decisions. Join thousands of satisfied businesses that trust Smarty to optimize their workflow. Check them out at Smarty.com and discover how they can transform your operations with their innovative solutions. Talk to you soon. Hello, everyone. My name's Jeff Gray. Welcome to the Lean Lounge. Thank you for watching everywhere on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and everywhere else you can get your podcast from. I want to thank my sponsors, SigmaXL, Smarty.com, and KPI Fire for sponsoring our podcast here. And today we got a special guest, Mr. Ezra Davis from Legate Business Formation. Good morning, my friend.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Definitely. Thank you for joining. So before we dive in and talk about Ezra, let's have you tell us a little bit about yourself, Ezra, a little bit of background, where you're from, growing up, and how did you get where you're at right now?
Originally, I guess I'll start with where I grew up. I grew up in Long Beach, California, and spent some time there. Then moved to Texas. And then from there, I joined the military. Spent about 8 years in the military. I fixed night vision, power supplies. And then when I ETS'd or got out of the military, I worked for a place called Comtech, and they managed 911 across the nation. And I worked in their NOC, our Network Operations Center. I did that for a very long time. I started at the bottom and I moved up, became like a supervisor, pretty much ran daily operations. It's pretty cool.
Nice.
I learned a lot. And now I have my own business, and it's called Legate Business Formation. And yeah, we help people create LLCs and make sure they're on track.
So you help businesses formulate whether they're an LLC or a sole proprietorship or a corporation or something like that. Is that right?
Yeah, and S Corp if that's what they want to do. It's pretty rewarding. I do a lot of the education first. I don't like to just send someone to the site and then just walk them through and go, okay, bye, we're out of here, and have no idea what they've done. You got to do a little education. Here are the things you should know. Here are the pitfalls, right?
So sometimes businesses too will go from a sole proprietorship to an LLC or to whatever as they grow and expand, right? So you help them figure out which is the right approach.
Correct. It could be very iterative. So sometimes people don't know if their idea is going to pan out. And so instead of going through all the legal work and paying extra money, you can just test it real quickly. If it fails, you're out of there and do something else, right? But if it's starting to make money, you're starting to do well, you formulate your LLC, and you can even backdate an LLC. Like you can say this LLC technically started doing business 2 months ago, and then they will say that's when your business was started. So you have a lot of leeway in the time of when your business is formed.
I bet a lot of people didn't know that. Yeah, little tricks of the trade. So you're in Seattle, right? In the Seattle area, or where are you?
I am pretty much in really Auburn, but no one knows where that is. So yes, Seattle.
No, I used to live in Auburn, and when I tell people where I'm from and I travel, I'm like Seattle. They're like, oh, okay. Oh, no, it's where Auburn is. Even now where I'm at. So very cool. You had military background. And then you went into leading in an organization. And I like what you said about operations, because everything about the Lean Lounge is about helping businesses understand operational challenges and how they overcome them. And I know you and I have spoken before a few times about your military background and your approach to getting things done. So can you share like maybe an experience where you had a challenge and you applied some of your military background, even in that organization where you were leading? Like, what were some organizational challenges and how did you, transform the organization, get your team on board, crack the whip on leadership, some kind of nuggets like that? What you so you laugh in there? What give us
Yeah,
some
so I can give you
execution.
two technically. So we'll start with the first one. It's kind of quick. There's
Yeah.
an issue with labor hours,
Yeah.
and so some of the team was feeling stressed.
Yeah.
And so, these are also the emotional based problems, but they have like a core problem, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to find that, like, what is that feeling? So it's been
Interesting.
it was, I did a lot of one-on-ones. So start there. So, like the little bit of background. I do one-on-ones with all of my people. And then I have we have morning meetings with, my upper leadership, right? And so that's like the culture of the place. I should start out. And
Right.
so since I was doing so many one-on-ones, I hear the same complaint, across everyone, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then looking back at my notes, I can see the historical, like, okay, this is a continual problem. It's just not just temporary. It wasn't just like we had a spike in work that day or that week, and they're just kind of feeling the pain. And this is like the after effects of the complaint, right?
Right.
And so that invoked me to do some research, and that means grabbing data, So
Yeah.
we create tickets. So it's like, what's the ticket count? What's how many, I want to say IBOPs, but how many change management? How
Yeah.
much maintenance were we doing? Right?
Yeah.
Does those contribute to the feeling? Is one person or maybe someone sitting too long on those maintenances and not getting a break? Like, what is actually contributing to the stress levels, or saying we have too much work, or saying, it's too
Right.
busy. And
Right.
once I saw the data, I saw that the days that they were actually complaining about were like, so Sunday would be, let's say 23 tickets. I was going to start using graph because I can see the graph in my head
Right.
still.
Right.
So say
Love it.
Sunday's
Love it.
23 tickets.
Yeah.
Monday was like 56 tickets.
Okay. Got a spike.
Right. And so they have like a day on that Sunday. And everybody's like, Sunday, you're working. Well, it's a knock that's 24/7. It manages
Yeah.
911.
Right.
So yes, we're 24/7, right? So I managed the day crew, and when it would spike on that Monday, that's when they would complain. And what's weird is like they will always say Monday was the hardest day, but it ramped up continually Tuesday and Wednesday. In fact, Wednesday they were doing twice as much as they were on Monday. But since the ramping was gradual, right? They never
Yeah.
complained about Wednesday. And then my back end team, they would get in on Wednesday or Thursday, depending on what week it was. And
Oh.
then they would slowly decline to the
Look.
weekend,
Right.
right? So they start out, and then
Right.
at the end of it, they're like, walking.
Right.
And so
Right.
what I did is I took one of my labor hours uh, who were extra on the weekend, and we moved them to a Monday through Friday style role because all the
Uh-huh.
shifts are 12-hour shifts.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Okay.
yeah. And so
Yeah.
we created pretty much a Monday through Friday type of shift, or Monday through Thursday technically shift.
Uh-huh.
And that helped. So I found out when the peak hours were, and I just made
Right.
sure it was padded during those times. Because that way we didn't
Right.
actually have to spend more money on labor. In fact, we saved money because of the lack of overtime from one person. But apparently,
Love it.
that person, of course, takes a little hit. So, increase the little pay a little bit more. So it's not
You want to keep them around.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not too
Reward
dramatic.
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah. And
I
they shouldn't
love
get
that.
punished because we're making a change, right? So,
Right. Right. Because some people start relying on that overtime. But man, that's a lot of good nuggets to take away there that you just said. I mean, you made me think of one organization I work with that worked 24/7. But yeah, I love what you said. It's operations. You looked at the data. And
mm,
I love what you said about feelings. So you were thinking about the workforce and what they were going through. and what they were feeling, because that's, if they're bringing baggage or they're experiencing baggage on the job, they're not going to be efficient and effective and
Right.
do what they're supposed to do. So that is great leadership. Not a lot of leaders think about the workforce and what they're feeling and what they need. They just think of them as a body to do some functions for, what they're paying them to do.
Mhm.
But that mindset is changing, in
Mhm.
the workforce now. That's not flying. That's
No, I
not
think it's a
flying
good
like it
thing.
used to.
I think it's a very it's an amazing thing that the workforce is actually changing. Like when I was in the army, we would go do stuff I'm not going to talk about, but like
Right.
we would complain while we're doing it, right? And so
Yeah.
I'm used to hearing Joes or workers complain, right? Like that's just souls are going to do what they do; they're going to complain, right?
Yeah.
Um, but it's not about the complaining because sometimes you just don't want to do the thing you're doing. It's a part of your job you don't like. I
Right.
don't want to dig this hole, or I don't want to type this form that I've typed 600 times, right? Can we do some automation here?
Right. Right.
And so those feelings, you hear, you just, in one ear and out the other as a manager, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
but you want to be there for them. Like, hey, I hear that. Yep. And then you relate, right? And you move on. But then there's
Right.
certain problems that are like, um, I call like the paper cut problems, where like
Uh-huh.
maybe at first it's not a problem, right?
Yeah.
But then after a while, it just constant,
Constant paper cuts. Yeah.
right? And now this
Right.
person is become sensitive and they start to
Yeah.
become defensive and their attention to work is like not there. And then
Right.
it's almost like the pain is too much and there's not enough the pleasure from work is going away. And I think
Right.
that's what the workforce is saying. They're saying, hey, there's too much pain and not enough reward for what we're doing.
Wow.
The main thing you hear right now is rent in Washington right now in Seattle is insane, right? Like
Yes.
you can
Yes.
get
Yeah.
and so if that's the case and your pay hasn't gone up, then
Yeah.
that's a pain, right? Every day you go to work, you're like almost losing money, right?
Yeah.
Working there. Um,
Yeah.
and so that's a thing that I think employers should think about. But when you think about, the local economy in Washington, 70% of like small business employ local population, maybe more than
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
So like, what do you do? Like, what do you, you're a
Yeah.
small business. Can you afford to pay someone, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
$48 an hour, to,
They're trying.
right, fix that? And
Trying
so
to
I think
legislate that. Yeah.
too often we look for a business to resolve economic problem, right? When it's
Ooh.
bigger
Yeah.
than that business, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah. We do see a lot of that with minimum wage and taxes and a lot of issues being pushed on businesses. Man, I like your analogy. It's the paper cut. And after a while, it becomes painful and you're losing your ability and your will to want to go in and work. And the cost of you having to get up and drive in or whatever, you made me think of something too. What you just said is, there's a large company here, corporation's been around for a long time. They're a big employer, and they have demanded that their people come back to work at least 3 days a week in downtown Seattle. But the CEO gets to work remotely from California. And I heard on the news yesterday that the justification was, well, I can jump on the jet anytime I need to if I need to be at a meeting, but he's not going to be there those 3 days. And the way the person on the radio read the story, I was like going, they were even like, just what? I mean, think about your workforce. I'm here in California. I'll jump on the plane when I need to, but you guys make sure you go into the office every day, you know? And that's not good. That doesn't send a good message to your workforce. We also have another big industry up here on strike right now. They've been out for what, a month and a half, 2 months?
yep.
People are getting a little mad about what's going on. So, but the business has been having some issues, but you got to, re-engineer and contract sometimes, but you always have to think about your workforce, because they're the bread and butter. Back in my day when I was starting, it was a privilege to get hired on some of these organizations. Now it's like, why should I work there for you and with you? That younger generation isn't taking that stuff that I had to go through, and you in the military, it's
I'm
coming
not taking
down.
it either.
Yeah.
I've spoken to some of those workers actually, who are on strike,
Yeah.
and it's interesting to listen. And I think they're union, right? And
Yeah.
so they recently had a vote,
Yeah.
and I think it was last week, and
Yeah. It
it
was
didn't
last
go.
week.
Yeah, it was not positive for their employer,
Nope.
And
Nope.
I know a lot of people maybe have like negative opinions maybe of that, but I think it's awesome, right?
Well,
Because
yeah.
17,000 people, I don't know how many, I think that's what I read in a news
Yeah.
article. That's a lot of like, we're not going to take this.
Right. Right.
And you got to wonder how bad are things that like that many people say like we'd rather be out of work for a month and a half, 2 months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, and I know people's, they talk about workers are lazy, but people have been saying that longer than either of us have been alive, right?
Right.
That's not a new
Right.
trend, right? I remember my
Right. It's not
granddad
your
saying the
trend.
same thing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
But I think too that leadership also has to think about they have set up the system and the processes and the procedures that the workforce has been trained to do or as workarounds to make it work and function for the better. Most people come to work to do a good job. They're not there to be
mhm,
lazy or anything. They want to be appreciated.
right.
And so, like you say, that many people, 17,000 or plus, have come together and said, we're not going to take it anymore.
Mhm,
And now that business it's contracting in some of its business lines because of what's going on. And so it's
mhm,
really making them think, and you need to, especially in this new world environment with the younger workforce, someone in their
yeah,
20s and 30s getting married and wanting to buy a house and having kids and stuff like
mhm,
that, um, you have to think about that and share the wealth. Um, and so that's what they're fighting for, is to get some of that wealth. Just like any industry, in the entertainment industry,
mhm.
recently they were on strike to get some of that wealth with AI generated stuff. Um, as the market changes, your business model from 10 years ago might not fit, or 20 years ago, doesn't fit, so very
Yeah,
cool.
I think too often though these big titans, of course they should, right? They're like wells, wells. No matter where they are, they create, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, but too often I think people hear that and they say businesses need to do this, and businesses are doing this, and businesses are taking advantage. Like, well, maybe like the ones you can see that you have high visibility, but there are
Right.
awesome businesses that aren't doing that, right? And there are awesome
Yeah.
businesses that have great cultures. I know a cleaning company around here, that, man, every person who works there pretty much is like a franchise, right?
Yeah.
Person, like owner, and they have like their own crew. They get their own,
Oh,
right? It's
right.
it's a
So
phenomenal, almost co-op like business, right?
I
They're
like
doing.
that because everybody's empowered. Everybody's doing what they need to, and they feel appreciated. They're
Mhm,
empowered. They're not constrained to just the certain things that they've been told to do. And they're being innovative and creative, and that's how you have to do it. I tell a lot of my clients, you know, they do a certain business or function, but they also have suppliers and they also have customers. So you need to be a partner with everyone in your ecosystem, and you need to be innovative and think out of the box. And um, I had one client not too long ago. I told them that their workforce was smart enough to be autonomous, to build their own schedules and do those kind of things. And the leadership in the room was like, "What are you talking about, Jeff? We have to keep our finger on the pulse, our thumb on their head, and make them do this, this, this." I said, "You guys, that's your problem." You're not giving them the power to make decisions. You're not giving them the skills and ability to run the business like they should be running it. And it'll take, 10 leaps of profit. If you do that, if you empower these people, you don't need to, they're all over 18, give them, just tell them what the end result needs to be and let them figure it out. That's what the Japanese did, 60, 70 years ago. Mr. Ono, who was running Toyota, went in there and said, in 1 year, I want ABC. And he left. And he came back in a year. And what do you know? ABC was being accomplished. Because the people were empowered. Here's the goal. Make it happen.
Yeah, that's really powerful what you said too, is because if you have good hiring practices as well, right?
Yeah.
You're hiring with intentionality. You should be able to trust the people that you've put in those positions. And what if if their process doesn't look like yours on their way there, as long as the end product is exactly what you're looking for.
Yes.
Right? Who cares if someone walks down the street in a straight line, or if they keep veering to the right and then getting back over and veering to the right and who cares? Like they got there. Stop controlling what everyone does every second. And I want to, I guess, a story from my past. We were having a problem where everybody was blaming a certain section for all the problems, right?
Oh yeah.
This is where it lives, and so it just became like this dumping ground of it's their fault. No one else has any responsibility in the company. We're not one company anymore. It's just this one section, all bad, right?
It's them. It's their fault.
Yeah. So when I was in the military, I got taught the OSI model, and that's like you got physical layers, just different layers for electronics, all the way up to the networking layer and the application layer, right? Anywho, so mentally I was thinking, okay, so if we have all these problems, what's the first most important thing in any business, right? And that's the interpersonal, right?
Yeah.
So relationships between the people who work there.
The camaraderie, the culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so the main problem I identified was that different departments were siloed, right?
Yeah.
You and I both know that that's a huge problem in organizations. It doesn't matter how big they are, right? Sometimes someone gets siloed. And so I started having meetings, I forced myself on everybody's calendar, right? And I did. And
love it.
And I started having meetings with them all. Hey, what can I help you with? And in the military, we have like these quarterly complaint sessions. People get to complain, and officers pretend to listen to you.
Right.
And I did the same thing. I went in there and I listened to everyone's complaint. I made, took notes like I always do. I wish I had a Fathom back then, but Fathom didn't exist. And you get like a high art of like, okay, here's everybody's complaints,
Right.
And then I go to my team and I just, ask a couple of probing questions like, hey, tell me about this interaction you had. What do you think needed to be improved? Because they're never going to come at my people like they're the problems, because they are. I train them, right? I trust them. Yeah. They're my team as part of the trust.
Right.
And so you hear it, you listen, and then you just see that like, oh, there's a lack of understanding. There's like an understanding of this group knowing what my team does, or my team what this group does, right?
Yeah.
And then once you fix that base layer of ignorance, because the first level again is interpersonal.
Yeah.
Right? And you resolve almost most issues like immediately at the root. And then after that, it was like this beautiful machine that just ran, and I didn't have to. Yeah, I didn't have to do anything. In fact, some of my people would say, Ezra, I want to go to that meeting with so and so, and I'd be like, cool. And then they bring in my engineer, would talk about like the problem that he was seeing and like how they need their help that's what it fosters, a solution based culture, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I love that, man. That's how it works. You go to break down those silos. And that's one of the things about operational excellence is you get people out of those silos and you get them on that product line that from end to end. That's why you bring in your supply. So everybody knows everything up and down the line. They know how their output impacts this input for the next step, or they can go do those other functions and feel it and see it and live it. And that's how I love what you said, that solution based, because then that team is going to work together because they're all impacted. You're as weak as the weakest link in the chain. And if you can come together and observe from the beginning to the end how you all connect and help each other, that's what it's like, solution based. And that's what I meant by the autonomy of that one organization when they were like, what are you talking about? Give them freedom. Let them make decisions for the business? What do you mean? I've set it up this way and this is how I mean, I've worked with some clients that are like, if they would just do what I told them, then everything would be fine. Well, they're doing what you told them. And that's why it's all messed up, man. So that's brilliant. I love that. Yeah. That's the way to do it, is get your fingers out of the mud and let everybody figure it out, and they'll make a better decision than you could even think of, that you've even thought about. Awesome. So I love those nuggets, man. So I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about what you and I are doing, the project that you and I are doing. So everyone listening out there, last week, Ezra asked me to help with a project and becomes the strategic planning facilitator of this group, which is great because there's some things moving along, but we have some challenges that we have to work on. So what do you think about taking a group of about 25, 30 business leaders, putting them together on a project? We really all don't know each other yet and our strengths and weaknesses. And now I'm supposed to be the strategic planner. What do you think I should do as an approach to that, my friend? You were on the project a little bit longer than me. What are some nuggets of knowledge that you can share on what do you think an approach should be to get this team working cohesively? Because there's strong personalities, there's people not talking too much, there's a lot of things flying around. What do you think we need to do? What's your military background and execution on thoughts?
Well, that's an interesting question. I want to make sure I say this in a way that doesn't sound like I'm demeaning or denigrating anyone, because that's not my intention, right?
Right.
So I would say this boat is overloaded.
Right?
And so the current propeller or engine is not good enough to drive movement forward.
I love that. Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
And there's a lot of knowledge on this ship. And the problem sometimes with too much information, it creates like a decision paralysis.
Yeah. Analysis paralysis. Yeah. Just turning. Love it.
And right now, what's wrong with the group is that there's lots of ideas. You were at the meeting, so you heard randomly new ideas being proposed, and
it's just coming all over the place.
And that is because, again, they've gotten past the interpersonal part, but once you have that, you need structure, right? There needs to be a structure in which you can operate in. Yeah. And currently there is none.
Okay.
There's a goal, right?
Yeah.
And going back to what you were saying before, when you said that in an earlier statement, let people go, right?
Yeah.
That works when you have structure.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
If someone doesn't have a compass and a map and you say, get over,
here,
they have no idea. They're just going to wander around and be lost. Right.
Right.
And so what's happening in this group, because I came on about a month and a half ago, I believe. Apparently this group has been running for about a year.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And when you think about that, you start to see where you start understanding some of the maybe problems that they're having. Yeah. Right. And no one has I don't want to sound rude, but I always think of structures and stuff as cages. And I know that sounds like crazy, but in my mind, everything the cage you build is a cage that you appreciate. And what I mean by that is you need buy-in from everyone. Like
Yeah.
your room in your house, when you close the door, you can always say that's a cage. The good thing is the lock is on the inside, not the outside. And so
Right.
you feel comfortable in there.
Yeah.
You just change the knob around, and you no longer like this room, right?
Everyone can enter. Yeah.
hmm
Ah,
And
but you're
so,
locked in. Yeah.
yeah.
Interesting.
So one is you control the flow or they can control the flow,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And to me, it's like a current because I think electronics, honestly,
Yeah. Oh,
really.
cool. Yeah.
And so in my mind, what this group needs is they need like a regulator and they need
Okay.
structure. And so
Good.
whoever is hosting the meetings needs to be the regulator. He needs the facilitator, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
think that's what a facilitator does. They regulate how
Yeah.
things go and how things
Keep
move,
things cadence. Yeah. Yeah.
right? But because we don't have a strategic plan, we don't have
Yeah.
we don't know our stakeholders. We don't know what we have, what to work with, right? I think that's why we're
Yeah.
getting the statement of qualifications.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
need
Case
that, right?
statements.
Because
Yeah.
yeah, how do you do any work you don't know who your employees are? You know,
Right. And what they're capable. Yeah.
hmm
Yeah.
And so I think the reason why I asked you to come on is there's no way it's a heavy lift. Like I said, the ship is
Yeah.
overloaded. It's going
Yeah.
to
I love
need
it.
to be you, myself,
Yeah.
and there's another gentleman, Gary, right? I think he's there. We're all going to need to
Yeah.
build out a good structure
Yeah. Yeah.
because we do have such amazing talent and knowledge. They're used
Yeah.
to being subject matter experts. And if you
Yeah.
don't get their buy-in,
Yep.
they're going to sabotage it without meaning to,
Without
right?
me. Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you said that there. Yeah.
And that's what
Interesting.
happens with um, high performers, right? I love high
Yeah.
performers. It's
Yeah.
not a knock. If you're a high performer and you're listening, you're amazing. But
Yeah.
everyone
Yeah.
has an exhaust pipe, you know, like if you take energy in, you got to expel it. You got to expel something, you know?
I love that. I love your analogies, man. They make sense. I'm visualizing everything you say. I'm sure every listener is going, yes, I get it. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we just have to make sure it's our job, right, as the strategic
Yeah.
planners, to make
Yeah.
sure all exhaust is not wasted or not going in back into the room, right? We don't need people passing out. Uh, and so, yeah.
Ah, I love that. Where's the fan? Open the door.
hmm
Blow the exhaust out. Yeah.
And that's our job,
Very
right? Is to
interesting.
mitigate.
Yeah.
So I
So
really
this,
appreciate you being willing to, by the way. Like that
oh yeah.
for me was so like I'm excited to work with you. Like I just want you to know that. Like from our first
Good.
conversation and then I met your son, like that was I was blown away. I was
Oh,
like,
hey,
can't wait. So
thanks. Awesome. Yeah, it was great. That's when I was like, okay, yeah, let's because we met a couple times and kind of high. It
mhm.
was quick and we didn't really get to talk. But that one day we sat there for a long time and chatted. It was like, okay, yeah, we're gonna get something happening here. And I'm glad you asked me. Because you asked me and I said yes. I didn't even hesitate.
All right.
I mean, it was like just a respond. Yeah, let's go, let's do it. But then when I went in there, I looked. He's like, "What'd you get me into, man?"
Yeah. Hey, I was ready too. I had like all these points, and you were like, yes. And I was like, okay. Yeah.
But I tried also during the meeting when everybody was, I do a gimbal walk. At my first meeting, I sat there and I'm just observing how things were going, who was doing what, and that helps me understand. We call it a discovery. So that's what I was doing, was kind of discovering the personalities, the leaders, who was capable of doing what. And I mentioned a couple of times, so where are we going, you guys? What's the goal? Remember? And we had
Yeah.
like 25 people with 25 different goals. So we have to get everybody in there. And that business is the same that happens to businesses. Leadership in businesses, you have, like you just said, everybody is pretty much a go-getter, strong personality because they run the business. They
Mhm.
run their business. And that's everybody that is in this group is a business owner. And so We have our vision, we have our way of doing things, and we just have to get them there. And that goal, when we hit it, it's going to be the sweet spot for all. So that's one of the things why I keep saying, where are we going? So, and I'm glad you said that and walked us through that. Politically correct. Without throwing anyone under the bus or naming anyone. Good. We don't want to do that. But that is actually problems many organizations have. Coming together, getting your people focused on the vision and taking all that information, because everybody has a piece, strengths and weaknesses. And we just have to get them funneled. And this is what I learned at Toyota when I was back there last month. Everybody is focused on the common vision. They have that infrastructure, that culture. Everybody knows their spot within the system. And the system is fluid and goes back and forth, and it's visual. And everybody has buy-in for that target and for those metrics that they have put in place for every day to accomplish. And I love how you took all that ambiguity and it actually gave me a little insight to my approach now that you and I are going to do together to apply some of your military backgrounds. We can get things dialed in and actionable and going. So, and I'm glad you also said that this group has been around for a year. And if organizations have similar things happening like that, they put a team together, a project together, and it's not going anywhere, you need to assess the culture, the balance, the team. Who's doing what? What are the actions? Why aren't things moving forward? So you can contract, re-engineer, reassign, or do whatever it's going to take to make that happen. So I love that, man. I love that.
Yeah. And you got to remember that group is full of specialists.
Yes.
And specialists are amazing, but they're amazing at the thing they specialize in.
Right.
Like I specialize in business formation.
Right.
So if you come to me looking to help you with your business plan, I'm going to have to tell you to go talk to someone else. I can help you with a business plan, but this person over here has systems and in place to assist you faster, increase, the rate of knowledge retention. Right. I focus on business formation. I can help cram that inside of your brain very fast, very quickly, no matter where you are. And how much YouTube you've been watching, I can assist you with that, right?
That's good. Yeah.
However, and these people are good at, concrete, drywall, right? Those are the things that they're good at. That doesn't mean that they can do operations, right? Just because they've dabbled in it, right? You're a specialist.
Yeah.
And so when you see an operational, you probably walked in that room and you saw some of the problems, almost same problems I saw immediately.
Oh yeah.
Right. You're like, okay, so this is the person I need to connect to. This is the person I see that in the end, we're going to have to try to appease a little bit because they're overly opinionated in areas that they have no actual knowledge in. And that's okay. Right. Like they're trying to get there. And sometimes that person helps bring about greater conversations that lead to a different outcome because people are no longer just taking their normal path and just running down it. They start to think about the path and go, oh, I usually take this path because this, but this time this other path is needed. Right. They think about the pros and cons. However, those meetings are only supposed to be like an hour and a half. Right. And so you have to be very intentional. And so we have those core breakout meetings where it's just a few of us, right? And that's where the work, we call that the working committee, right? But that's when the work gets done.
That's where the work gets done. Yes.
Everyone else is like, hey, it's like our think tank almost, but also our pool of experts, right? And so it's like our we're doing like a UX design almost, right? Like
cool.
And so we're in there like, hey, what is this? Okay, so here you got your parking lot whiteboard, and how do you feel about this? And and so I think for you and I, it's only the early stages. That we are really needed.
We can fix it.
And then because honestly, once this group is structured, it's just
we're going to take over a lot of stuff. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, as a good consortium, and it's going to bring work to the area. It's
yes.
going to, it's going to bring a lot of work within the state and the western part of Washington, and a lot of businesses will benefit from that as long as we put it together and execute it correctly, like you're saying. It's going that's the goal. Really, the goal of the whole thing is to bring jobs and business to the state and to the smaller businesses, and minority and women-owned businesses, and help them grow and expand and in their area of expertise, like you say. Once we put that together, we all know what everybody can bring to the table, the pieces of the puzzle. So it's a great project. I love it. It's a great, case study. And definitely it'll be a, podcast topics along the way with other folks too who are in there, as we move along. And we'll definitely do it like in 6 months. We'll do a check-in and we'll keep an eye on ourselves and say, are we moving in the right direction? And maybe by then on this podcast, I'll have an audience and they can call in, or people will text or email anyway on the contact at leanrevisions.com. They might have some nuggets of knowledge that we might have thought of, or they might say, hey, I've been in the same situation in my organization. We had a big, huge project enterprise-wide and we were stagnant and this is what we did. Maybe next time you have this topic, talk about this approach, or who knows? It's a two-way street. That's what it's all about. Is this podcast is sharing information and how people overcome challenges. And what we just talked about, I'm sure half the people listening have lived it, are in it right now, or have left an organization because it was not going where they wanted. And so, that's what this whole thing is about, is how do we become more operational efficient and identify the problem? I'm glad the analogy you have is the boat is overloaded and we're going upstream and the engine isn't working. I mean, people are thinking. I love that, because the way you were telling that, I was visualizing that whole boat. I actually had Noah's Ark. My first thought was a big old ark with all the animals going off.
And possibly overloaded. I got you.
Overloaded. Oh man, love it, Ezra. Love it, man. Love it. Awesome. Well, I want to thank you, my friend. This has been fantastic. Great conversation. Great conversation.
I want to thank you for inviting me. It's my first podcast I've ever been on, so I think it's pretty cool. Nice. I hope it's not the last time I'm here.
No.
And I look forward to us continuing working together.
Definitely.
This is going to be a challenge. But once, like you said, the case study for it's going to be pretty epic. I think it's the beginning of something pretty crazy for Washington as far as just resolving the issue of not enough dependable subcontractors, right? Because right now that pool is, I don't know if you guys, if your viewers know, but subcontractors and construction, those companies go out of business really fast, very quickly, because they don't get the support that they need.
Right.
And it's hard for a prime to get dependable contractors consistently. And it's very hard. So we're aiming to resolve that.
Right. And bring steady, consistent business. And that's what I meant also about, since you mentioned it before we go here. Every time you go to a construction site or there's a new job, the team is different. The subs are different. So if they're always different, they're always changing, then there's no consistency, no cohesion. It's always starting from scratch. So that's one of the problems I see in the industry when a prime is out for a bid, because their subs that they used last time are on another job, or they've gone away, or they've moved to another state or whatever. So if you don't have predictability, consistency, stability, then it's always going to be chaos. So that's part of the issue too, is these groups. And this is why this team is of specialists from a variety of different business lines that will all come together. And that's one of the things I want to make sure too, is that we have that consistency within construction everywhere, because it'll be, more efficient. We'll get things done faster, roads, bridges, buildings, houses, hospitals, whatever. And that's part of it too. So awesome. So before we go away, how can people get a hold of you, Ezra, if they need to formulate a business? What's your contact information and name your business one more time and tell them what you do one more time.
Yeah, if you're looking to get help starting a business, maybe it's just a painful process. You don't know where to start. You don't know where to go. You don't know who to trust. You don't know what you're doing. You can contact legatebusiness.com. You can go to the contact us. Our website, there's nothing there to really read. It's just there for intake. You go to contact us, put your information in there. I'll get it. It will immediately send you an email. Or you can email me at legatebusiness.com, and Legate is spelled Legate. And I look forward to assisting you. And I love helping entrepreneurs achieve their dreams and at least taking that first step.
Awesome. And I'll put underneath our pictures here your contact and your title and everything, so it'll be on the whole time so we can see it. So I want to thank you, my friend. I look forward to our challenge together.
Hey, I know we got it.
Oh yeah, we got it.
Yeah.
We got it. We got the experience. And this is the stuff I love. This is what I do with organizations, man. I go in there and I sit down there, I go in that C-suite meeting, and I go, okay, here's what we got.
Anybody who's gonna be my problem that I'm gonna turn into my greatest asset? Which one?
Yeah.
As soon as you find him or her,
and who's gonna be? Yeah, we gotta do some work with.
I feel like we're
All
all
right.
teachers. Teachers have the same problems. So
Oh yes,
I feel
every
like
year
everyone does.
a new batch.
But
Awesome. And I want to thank everyone. Thank you, my friend Ezra. And I want to thank everyone for listening on Spotify, Apple, YouTube. If you need any help with your lean operations, strategic planning, like we were talking about, you can contact us at leanrevisions.com. Contact@leanrevisions.com. Thank my sponsors, KPI Fire, Smarty.com, Sigma XL. And if you want to be a sponsor on the show, get a hold of us, please. We enjoy having new sponsors that are part of the operational excellence umbrella. So there's a lot of you out there, finance, business development, you name it. And we will see you soon. See you next time. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Welcome to KPI Fire, strategy execution software. Align strategy, drive execution, engage people. Here's how it works. First, you create a dashboard of strategic goals and the key metrics that demonstrate success. Then projects are created that cascade under those strategic goals. The progress of those projects and the movement of their metrics roll up into the strategic goals they belong to. With KPI Fire, your strategic progress becomes tangible, measurable, and at your fingertips. KPI Fire also allows you to capture your employees' best ideas for continuous improvement and reward those contributions. From top to bottom, your organization can clearly see strategy, and everyone feels that they have a say and a stake in the success of that strategy. It means that management can clearly prove hard and soft savings, and that they aren't wasting time rolling up reports. And it means that every employee can have simple, real-time visibility on projects and strategy progress. And what that translates to is alignment, strategy becoming reality, and igniting success. KPI Fire is a simple, intuitive interface. It's the right tool for any improvement approach and any size team. And it's easy. It requires no download or IT support and is at your fingertips on any device. Instant visibility to your business. Align strategy, drive execution, engage people.
Hello, everyone. This is Jeff Gray from the Lean Lounge, brought to you by Lean Revisions. I want to thank you for watching our show, listening to our show all over Apple and Spotify and iHeart and SiriusXM. And I want to especially thank one of our sponsors, Sigma XL. Now, if you haven't heard of Sigma XL, Sigma XL is an Excel plugin to help you execute all of your Lean, your Six Sigma, your Agile, your PDCA, and really any other kind of process improvement approach that you're using out there in your organizations and in your businesses. Sigma XL has been around since the late 90s. I started using Sigma XL in the early 2000s, so date myself a little bit, for about 20 years. And over those 20 years, they have expanded and grown into an awesome software that'll help you execute your Lean Six Sigma projects out there. It's an Excel plugin. They have over 100,000 users. They're in over 180 countries around the planet, so they must be doing something right. And it's a very simple software that you can use. You can download off their site, plug it into your Excel. It'll help you do your charters. It'll help you do all of your statistical analysis, your hypothesis testing, your design, your Monte Carlos, your SPC. They have lots of templates for QFDs, for your root cause analysis. There's C&E matrix for your solution selection and root cause analysis. Everything you need to do to successfully execute a lean project. So visit our friends at Sigma XL and download their software. Tell them Jeff from the Lean Lounge sent you, Jeff from Lean Revisions. I want to thank you for following along with us on our podcast and keep listening. I hope you are enjoying the variety of practitioners and authors and real life folks who are just executing projects and sharing some nuggets of knowledge along the way. So visit our friends at Sigma XL and download their software and continue watching the Lean Lounge. I'm your host, Jeff Gray. See you soon.
For more information on today's show or to become a sponsor, visit leanrevisions.com. Join the virtual studio audience by emailing podcast@leanrevisions.com for tickets. Follow us on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, and X. This podcast is hosted by Jeff Gray, produced and edited by Make Your Day Richer.